Yeah, we are live now. Please start.
Yep, thank you so much. Hello everyone. Welcome in the session on how to make your meeting productive, or we can say, understand it as how to run or run our meeting effectively. Let me start with my quick introduction. My name is Taral Panchal. I am designated project manager at Encora. I'm having more than 8 years of IT experience. My area of expertise includes project management and tracking, stakeholder management, client relationship management, risk and change management, team building and leadership. Key domains, where I have experience are banking, insurance, and e-commerce. I'm also a CSM certified agile practitioner and awarded with software management credentials from the NPTEL. We at Encora are leaders in the rapidly growing outsourced product development market. We also provide innovation services and software engineering solution across wide range of leading technologies. So many of us might be wondering, right, why we are needing the session on productive meetings. Maybe hosting or running a meeting is pretty easy. So if that is your thought, let me show you some interesting facts. So 83% of the total workforce spend up to third of work week in a meeting. So that is huge, isn't it? So 71% of professionals waste time every week due to unnecessary or cancelled meeting. Did you know that in US alone in 2021, $338 billion was spent on unnecessary and unproductive meetings? If you believe that, then you wouldn't be surprised to find out that 96% of the employees have missed meetings because of one or other reasons. 91% of the meetings attendees admit to daydreaming, right? It's something like you are part of meeting and then you are dreaming something else. 71% of the employees admits to working on unrelated tasks during the meetings, right? And then only 28% of the meetings are run with an agenda. So these are some key states that that basically makes us think twice whether we should learn how to run a meeting or not. So the question then becomes that are you making your meetings effective as possible? Chances are that you are not. Okay, so in this session we will cover what one should do in order to deliver truly productive meeting, or say we will learn how to run a meeting as effective as possible. Outcome of the session will be, by the end of the session, we would come to know that, okay, so we'll learn steps to be followed to be able to deliver a meeting that adds true value. You would be able to reduce number of wasteful meetings and save money of your organization or yourself. You would be able to save time of your teammates. You also will be saving them from the frustrations and give them back their time. And then you will have a chance to stand out as an employee or a manager that can run highly productive meetings. Okay, now to whom this session will be helpful? So anyone who has attended any kind of meetings previously, or who has run any kind of meeting previously, right? Anyone who wants to increase participation and satisfaction from the meetings. Anyone who wants to run another pointless or unproductive meeting ever again. So it can be for anyone. It can be for an employee, it can be for a manager, it can be for a new guy, it can be for an experienced guy. So we'll have something to learn from this session. So let me start with the agenda for the today. So in today's session, we'll be learning the various steps that one should follow, or one should take in mind while hosting a meeting or running a meeting. So we'll try to address it in the 3 different sections. So it is like before the meeting, what one should do, during the meetings, what are the aspects that you should keep in mind, and then after the meeting. And at the end of the session, we'll have a Q&A open discussion forum where you can ask your questions and I'll be happy to answer your questions. So let me start with the first section for today's session, which is before the meeting. So normally, while you want to schedule any meeting, or you want to run any meeting, you should ask yourself a simple question: why will you have a meeting? Right? You should know the basic funda behind why you want to run the meeting. And then you should ask, do you really need it? So these are the two basic questions one should ask before thinking of scheduling a meeting or running a meeting. If you are able to answer these two questions, I think a job is done 30%. Right? Then we'll answer a few more questions. Like, before scheduling a meeting, it is very imperative to know what you want from the meeting. So we call it as an outcomes of the meeting, right? So one should know the clear outcomes before actually implementing it. So some important questions to be answered before the meeting, like what do we want from this meeting? So this will give you basically an objective or outcome that you want from the meeting. And then you should ask yourself, what is the meeting supposed to produce? Right? So this will give you outcomes. Say, for example, I want to run this session. I should know from very well before scheduling this session that, okay, what I want from this meeting. I want all the participants to learn the steps that they should follow, they should learn in order to run a productive meeting. Then people, so it might be the case that whosoever joins your meeting or whosoever being part of your session will have a question in their mind, what we are here for or what we are here to do. Right? So having the clear outcome before your meeting will help you as well as your participants to know what they can expect from the meeting. The next important aspect before the meeting is knowing the meeting agendas. Right? The agenda of the meeting is the roadmap to get you to your defined outcomes. So agenda is nothing but basically a way which you can use to achieve your defined outcomes that you have just answered in the slide before. Now, few things about the meeting agendas. So agenda defines the meeting objectives. So as you see in the top, right, it is a roadmap to your meeting objectives. Then sharing the meeting agendas beforehand. So what this will help. So if you know your meeting agendas, sharing it beforehand with your participants will help them to know that, okay, what they are getting into, what they can expect from that session or from that meeting. And they will have a chance to prepare by themselves. So they will get some time to get familiarized with what is the agenda, what is the expectation from the meeting. Now, few of the important pros of sharing the agendas or defining the agendas before actually scheduling it or before getting into the meeting. So agenda helps participants to prepare for a meeting and guide them through the items that need to be discussed. Right? So if, say, for example, before this session, if you already know that, okay, why we are being part of this session, because you want to know the steps, how to run a productive meeting, then it will help you to prepare well, come up with the questions, do some groundwork, and then getting into the meeting, it will help you to, put your right thoughts and suggestions and the feedbacks in the meeting. So it basically encourages the participation, right? Now, if you already know the meeting agenda, if, say, for example, I schedule a meeting or I schedule this session to deliver basically, idea about how to run a productive meeting. If you already know the agendas, then it will, help you, or it will encourage you to get into the meetings as well. If you do not know what to expect from the meeting, it's very hard that, someone joins it. Someone might feel that, okay, this is just another meeting that will waste my time, let me skip it. But having the agendas upfront will help you to increase the participation as well. So that will also keep everyone focused, right? So if you already know that, okay, this meeting we need to cover this many points or this many agenda items, and this is what we are expecting from the meeting, so that will keep everyone focused on the items that we already defined. Without having the agendas, what it does, it will just create the guesswork, right? People will start making the guesses, they'll start making the assumptions, and at the end of the day, at the end of the meeting, at the end of the session, you will not achieve what you want to achieve from that session. Also, agenda increases the productivity and the reduce the wasted time and the resources. So what it does is that it basically eventually, because of the above mentioned advantages of the sending the meeting agendas before the meeting, it increases the productivity and eventually it will reduce the wasted time. Now, organizing the agendas lets you archive and refresh past meeting outcomes. So how this will help? So say for example, you are running a series of meetings. Say for example, you are managing a project, okay, and then you are hosting a couple of meetings that will help you to define the requirements of your project. Now the series of after say 5 meetings, you might not be knowing what to discuss in the first meeting. So having the agendas upfront with you, right, that will help you track back, okay, what we discussed in the meeting one, right, what we actually defined for meeting two, what was the expected outcome of meeting three, and then you will track back to meeting five and see that, okay, after 5 meetings, this is what our roadmap was, and this is what we have achieved. Okay, it also ensures that important topics are covered. This is very important point. So say sometimes we get into the session, right, and then in the flow or in the flow of the meeting, or sometimes we sometimes just miss out on things that we should discuss in that meeting or in the session, and because we have not noted it down, like we haven't thought of it previously, or before the meeting, it missed out. And then you might see it implications going ahead in the in next meetings or subsequent meetings. So these are the few important pros and the advantages of having the agendas before a meeting. As this is very important. Knowing your outcomes and the meeting agenda before the meeting does 50% of your work. So the stats that we have seen, where I think almost 28% of meetings were running without the agendas. So this is very important that we define our agendas, we define our outcomes of the meeting before getting into it. Then few other key actions that one should keep in mind or one should follow before scheduling or running any meeting. So the important point is the ownership, right? So it is very imperative. Sometimes people think that, okay, it's very obvious that it's everyone's responsibility in a meeting to be part of it, and then take the ownership and take a lead in the meeting. But it's very important to have one person needs to own the meeting. Why so? Right? Because then that person will be responsible for making sure that all the agenda items, whatever the expected outcome from the meeting was, is being fulfilled. Right? If you'll make it open, then you will end up in just wasting your time. Right? You will not achieve your goals. You will not be able to cover all of your agenda items. You will not be able to fulfill why you have scheduled your meeting or the session. Now, whosoever person who is chairing the meeting has the complete responsibility for his success. So it is just like, an owner of the meeting. He will be responsible for making sure that whatever expected outcome of those meetings are being fulfilled, and eventually that meeting or session is getting the success. Then another important key action that one should take before scheduling the meeting is identifying the right audience. This is very important, right? So say for example, I'm scheduling a session on letting people know how to spend your day in an IT organization, right? Now it is very important for me before scheduling that session to invite the people who will be benefiting, or who are basically from that industry. If I invite somebody from the manufacturing environment or someone from a non-IT environment, they might not find it useful to be in that session or in that meeting where I'm discussing about purely about the IT or software industry. Right? So it is very important that so whosoever the owner of the meeting is, or if you are running that meeting, you need to identify and invite only those attendees who are required for the meeting. That will also help you in making sure that people are focused, people are actually paying attention to your meeting, to your session, and it is not just a waste of time. Then sending the clear agenda and expected outcome in an invitation is also an important aspect. The moment you have identified the right audience, then it's important to send them what they can expect from that session. So as we rightly discussed, the clear agendas and clear expected outcomes is inevitable, right? That will help you to make your session, make your meeting a very successful one. Then also you need to provide enough time to participants to prepare for the meeting, right? So if it is just an one-way dialogue where you are just sharing a session on something, then it's obvious that, okay, they might not require a time to they might not require enough time to do a preparation. But say, for example, if you are running a meeting in an organization where you want your cross-functional teams to prepare on something, right? Then you need to let them know beforehand that, okay, when you are expecting to send this invitation, when you are expecting the meeting to be held, and give them the enough time to prepare. Share the agendas upfront, right? At least for say week, depending on the objective of the meeting, you need to give them the enough time to prepare, to go through the agenda and prepare themselves for the meeting. So it might be the case that sometimes a meeting is not only being hosted by one person, right? There are series of persons who will take different sections in that meeting or session. Then it is very important that you give time to all your presenters, all your people who are part of that meeting, who is hosting or sharing in that meeting, enough time to prepare. Then also you need to know your audience, right? So whenever you're delivering your session, or you're hosting any of your meetings, it's important to know your meeting, not say in depth, but at least some part of it, like from where they are coming, what domain or what expertise that they have. Then maybe making sure that, or getting the pre meeting questionnaires or questions from there, so that will help you to plan in a better way your meeting. Then another important action item that one needs to take care of is selecting a suitable meeting time, right? It's very important. Until and unless you do not invite right people and at right time, you might not see enough participation in your meeting. Okay, so it is just like that. If I'm scheduling something where majority of participants are not able to make it, then it doesn't make sense, right? You will not achieve your expected outcomes, or your meeting will not get a success that you want from it. And then yeah, important thing, last but very important, is to rehearse and be ready. So sometimes we take it for granted that, okay, I have done it multiple times, right? I know everything about it, and I'll just go unprepared without doing any rehearsal. Now rehearsal preparing is very important when actually you are doing something in a tandem, like with the people, with the help of your team, or say with the help of your 4 or 5 people in the member, right? So you need to synchronize, you need to know who will be doing what at what time, who will be speaking, who will be sharing the responsibilities across and stuff like that. So doing the mock rounds before actually doing any presentation or doing any meeting or session will help you to basically achieve, I would say, not 100%, but at least 99% of what you have expected. So these are the few key actions that you should keep in mind before scheduling a meeting. So let me just quickly do a quick recap. So first thing first, you should ask yourself, whether this meeting or session is really required. Or then you should, clearly define the objectives of your meeting. So that will help you to know whether or not to have this meeting. Then you need to prepare and share your agendas upfront. So you need to share what you'll be covering in that meeting or session to your participants. You need to have a clear honor of your meeting. You need to identify and invite only the right audience in your session or meeting, and then schedule it on suitable time where majority of your audience can be a part of that meeting. Okay, and then do a proper rehearse and be ready for the session. So that summarizes what you can do, what all actions one can take before the meeting. Now comes the actual time where you are actually delivering it. We are actually being part of that meeting. We are actually hosting that meeting or running that meeting, or you are participating in someone else's session and learning from it, right? So what one should do in order to conduct an effective meeting. So some of the key actions are that first thing first, you need to start on time, right? You always need to be a professional, whether you are doing any say formal or informal meetings or sessions. Make sure that you are starting it on time. So it shows that you are basically valuing your attendees' time. So it ensures that, okay, so whatever you have done so far, whatever you have covered so far, it actually means to them, right? And that it also makes a good first impression. Say, for example, you have started it on time, everyone joins in time, you have given them the enough time to prepare, you have given them enough time to get settled into the meeting. So that will just make them comfortable. So that will also help you to increase the productivity of your meeting. Then also it provides the enough time to achieve the objectives of the meeting. Say, for example, we have scheduled a session for 1 hour, where 45 minutes are for delivering the content that you have defined in the agenda. Now, say if you are starting, say, 5 minutes or few minutes late or by delayed, you have already lost your 3 minutes from your planned session, where you wanted to cover your objectives. So it might be the case that you might miss out on some of the items. So starting it on time always helps. And sometimes, we miss out on starting in time because of doing it back to back meetings or doing it back to back sessions. So always keep that 10-15 minutes buffer time before starting off your next session or next meeting. So that will ensure that you are well prepared for your session, you are well prepared for what you are going into, and then you have your mind very clear on what you want to achieve. Then while you are starting the meeting, right, so give enough information to the participants. So take a couple of minutes, say 5 minutes, while starting the sessions to set the expectations and the outcome of the meeting. So you might have already shared it beforehand in your invitations. You might have shared the expected outcomes and meeting agendas before you started the meeting. But it might be the case that people might not have viewed it, so they might not have gone through the details of what you are expecting, or what would be the agenda of it. So spend initial couple of minutes or 5 minutes to explain them that, okay, why we are conducting this meeting, why we are hosting this session. So that will ensure that everybody who have participated, who have attended that meeting or session, are on the same page as you are. Then next thing that we need to do while we are conducting the meeting is to ensure that we have the appropriate attendance. Right, we need to make sure that before starting any session or meeting, you need to make sure that the key members that you need in the meeting to achieve your agendas are present. Right, you need to make sure that everybody who is required in that meeting, say for example, we are planning for a session, we are planning for a Christmas session in our office where we want to celebrate something. So I need to make sure that, okay, the people from the people and culture, the people from different organizations within my company are being part of that meeting, so that at least we can discuss and identify the next steps and action plan from that meeting. People who can contribute to the outcome should be at your meeting, right? So this is something you have already planned before sending out the invitation. So you have already shortlisted your audience, and you need to make sure that they all are present in your meeting. Then the next very important thing, and this is something many of us who is hosting the meeting or running the meetings misses out, that is time boxing the activities. Right, so say for example, I wanted to cover 6 points in my meeting, and because the second point was something where more discussions can happen, right, and we actually wanted to say spend only 10 minutes into it, but we eventually ended up in spending 20 minutes, and which leads to missing out few of my agenda items in the meeting. So it is very imperative, it is very important to time box the activities. So whatever items that you are defined in your agenda, you need to give some time, some time frame to it, and stick to it while you are delivering it. This is very important stuff that will come to you when you do a proper rehearsal, right, when you actually practice before getting into any session or meeting. So that will help you to achieve whatever you have defined in your meeting. Also stick to the schedule, right? So you need to make sure that whatever schedule that you have defined, that you are sticking to it. So you are not running a meeting very short, you are not running meeting very long. You are making sure that whatever amount of time you need to spend on a particular item, you are actually doing it. Then during the meeting, it might be the case that something goes out of way, right? You have planned, you have rehearsed well, you did everything well, but then due to internet issues, or due to some other issues, due to some technical glitches, or due to some impersonal glitches, things are not going in the way you wanted to do. Then it's very important for us to improvise, adapt, and overcome, right? And this will come as and when you will start delivering the session, as and when you start handling the meeting, you start running the meetings as the moment you will participate in the a majority of the meetings, right? So you will find out that even you have prepared very well, you have spent a lot of times, you have done, you have done the very good checklist of your agenda, you have invited the right members, everybody has joined, everybody has started on time, you have make sure that the things are going as you have planned, right? You have time box the activities, but then due to some technical glitches or due to some other issue, things are just getting delayed. So you need to improvise, you need to adapt, and you need to find impromptu solutions while you are delivering your session, or you are being part of that meeting. And as we started, so the way we started on time, we need to make sure that we are ending on time as well, right? So it's very important that you basically you are valuing your participants time as well. So everybody would be busy in some way or other way. So if they have participated, if they have joined your session or meeting, you need to make sure that you are ending on time, making sure that okay, whatever you have planned is completed. So these are the few key items that one should keep in mind while delivering the session. Okay, so how you basically rate that whatever you have planned is being achieved, right? So while you are delivering it, you need to make sure that you are making the tick marks against your agenda items. Okay, so say for example, I schedule this session to make sure that okay, I'll be covering the items where what I need to do before the meetings. Okay, I'll tick mark it. I've covered it. Okay, this is done. Now what I'll do during the meetings? Okay, I have check marked it. I've covered all the action points that I wanted to share it with you guys. Okay, this is done. Now what I'm left with what one should do after the meeting is over, right? And before that, you need to make sure that you are ending your meeting on a high note, right? So share your summaries with your while ending your meeting on time, making sure that okay, you give them the summary of what you covered during that meeting or session. Give them the highlight of okay, what we have achieved so far. Give them the basically idea about that what they can expect in the next session if there is any subsequent section, or share them the results of the session or the meeting. So that will help you to end your meeting on high, right? Always end your meeting on a positive note. Always give them what you achieved out of the meeting. And say for example something went wrong, something didn't go the way you expected, you wanted to do in a one way, but because of one or other reason it went in a different way. So always show that area of improvement as well, so you can always give them the basically idea of okay, where we went wrong and how we can improve. So that will help you to plan your session or meeting well for the next time, for your futures. And that will also help participants to know that as well, that okay, where they went wrong, right? What they can expect as well from the next session, or what they can improve. Say for example somebody joins in the session without knowing, without getting through the agenda items, without preparing themselves. They expect, so say for example you are expecting someone to go through the history of a topic and then come into the session, but they haven't went through it. And then you identified it during the session that okay, at least 80% of the audience were not aware of what will be covered in the session. Then give them the feedback, right? Let them know that okay, it's very imperative to know what you will be doing in the session. Let them know that okay, before the next time you join, do this and this activities. Create a proper checklist for yourself as well as for the participants as well. So that will help you to achieve your goals, to make sure that the meeting or session that you have scheduled goes as per the plan, and it basically delivers what you have expected. Now so once we are done with conducting the meetings, then what next? Right now session is delivered, meeting is over. It might be the case that okay, you have achieved your agenda items, you have achieved your expected outcomes, or it might be the case that only 70-80% or only 50% of your agenda items were delivered. Now what next after the meeting, after the session is over? Right, so here are few up. So in this section we'll be discussing the few action items or few areas that one should keep in mind after the meeting. So it is not just like that okay, we have scheduled the meeting, we did everything that we wanted to do, we sent out the invitation with the agenda items, we conducted the meeting well, so now it's all over. No, that is not the case. We always need to end with a clear idea of who does what and by when they need to do it. So it is more like, and giving them the summary of what is achieved, what is not achieved, and then say if there are any action items or the follow-ups needs to be taken after that meeting or session. So you need to have that clear picture. You need to give that clear picture to everyone, all the participants, on that. So we'll be covering, in this section, we'll be covering what all actions or what all key items you should keep in mind after the meeting is over or after the session is over. So we always need to have the key takeaways from the section, right? So if you are an owner of the meeting, make sure that you are taking notes of key takeaways from the meeting. So sometimes it is not just about delivering it, but also about knowing the feedback from the people, what they are feeling from it, right? So conclude a meeting with a summary and key takeaways, whether defined objectives were met or not. So you can share it at, say, for example, if there is no direct written communication channel established, then you can share it over a meeting itself. Or say, for example, you already have the connection with them, say through emails or through some social media channels or through the channels through which you have hosted your session. Always, share your summary and key takeaways with your participants, and collect and share key takeaways and meetings with all the participants, right? It's also very imperative to collect or know who will be doing what and not. Also make sure that you are pointing out or you are noting down all the action items. Say for example, you are running a project meeting, okay, and that was a kickoff meeting where you're supposed to initiate some new project. Now say in that meeting your agenda items were to know your stakeholders, knowing the client in a better way, getting the prerequisite items, and then sharing the next plan of action, right? So it is very important at the end of the meeting that we share that minutes of meeting with them, with highlighting the key summary, what all covered in the meeting, what all we achieved in the meeting, and then point out the action items clearly with the name of that people and with the clear timelines, right? We need to make sure that we circulate agreed action points to the people who need to know. So say for example, there were 100 or thousands of people joined that session, or say only there are 15 people joined that session. Now out of them, you need to make sure that you are sending that minutes of meeting, or you're sending that key takeaways to all those people whom you think that they should know about it, right? And you also clearly need to define. So at the end of the session, just go through the how session went, just go through all the checklists if you have missed out or something, or if you feel that okay, this is now a next action item on somebody needs to complete few things before the next session, then clearly define those next steps and the action items, and clearly mention the name of the owner against each action item. So it is like you can create a format where you have the multiple columns, where you will define the action item, you will define the owner of that action item, and also give them the timeline. So for example, by the next session, if you want, or by the next meeting, if you want that action items to be completed, then clearly define the timelines in your minutes of meeting, in your key takeaways that you will send after the meeting. And then, yeah, as I said, each item should have the relevant timeline, so that will ensures that you have covered, you have noted down, you have formally informed all the participants what they can expect before the next meeting, right? And then another important thing, so sometimes so I have seen that not in just a professional life but in the informal life as well, once we are done with the session, once we are done with the meeting, we do not send this minutes meeting, right? And at the end of the day, after a couple of months, then we'll figure it out, like okay, what happened after that meeting, what was the actual action items after, and no one knows, right? So if time goes by, none of us might be having that strong memory that we know each and everything. So that is where the important written communication or written minutes of meetings are very important. So once you have sent it out, now okay, you have done the first item correctly, you have sent out your minutes meeting, you have sent out, you have created the action item list, and then you have sent it across to the right people. Now it's very important to keep tracking that as well. Okay, so it is not just like that, okay, you have sent it out, That's all. And then you went on the next session, and you expect everyone to come prepared and finish all of their action items and stuff like that. That will not happen like that. You need to keep tracking them. You need to keep, you need to do sometimes a follow-ups as well. So you might need to send out a reminder. So say after the first session, you have sent out some exercise to be done. For example, after the session, if I ask you to host a session, make sure that okay, whatever we have covered in the session, whether you have covered it or not, whether you learned it or not, then after a couple of days I need to send out and follow up. It might be the case that not all of us will follow that, or we might get busy in something and we miss out on few things, right? So sending out the follow-ups, tracking the action items is very important, imperative as well. And then gather the session at the end of the feedback, right? So it might be the case that you are doing it for the first time, or you are doing it for the second, third time, but the participants are different. So after end of every session, gather the feedback from that audience, gather the feedback from the whosoever participants were in the session, and try to improve from that feedback. So it might be the case that the way you thought that okay, the session delivers up to that expectations, whatever expected outcomes that we have expected from that meeting, we have achieved it. But it might be the case that not all of them have enjoyed it, right? Or it might be the case that they might have some newer ways of conducting a session or delivering a session or making it in a better way, so that everyone who has participated in that session are up to the mark and they find it very useful. So along with your minutes of meeting, always gather the feedback from the session. And here as well, people will not give you will not give you enough information at the end of the session. They will not give you feedback, so you might need to do a follow-up with them. But doing this follow-ups are very important, because that will help you to improve and achieve your objectives or outcomes of next sessions in time, right? So this is all that I have for you guys. So I hope you will find it useful. So I'm just doing a quick recap of what we covered so far. So we have covered how to run a meeting in an effective way by dividing it into the three sections. The first one was before the meeting, right? What one should do before the meeting. So you should clearly define your outcomes. You should clearly define the agenda of a meeting or session, then define a honor of that meeting. It might be the you or someone else in your team, or someone else in your organization. Then identify and invite only the right audience in your session. Share them upfront invitation with your clear agenda and objectives. Give them the enough time to prepare. And then basically you need to make sure that you are rehearsing, you are planning well for your session, for your meeting, with your co-host or co-presenters for your presentation. Then during the session, you need to make sure that you are starting it on time, right? Then set the expectations. So take couple of minutes of say 5 minutes to give your introduction, set the expectation for the session, give them okay what they can expect from the session, and do some informal talk with the audience. Just get familiar with them, right? So that will help you to making sure that whatever you have defined for that session is going in the way. So you need to make sure that you time box your activities, you are going as per your schedule. Also you need to make sure that you are not spending a time more time or less time on some item or other item. And then you need to end your session on a very high and positive note, and also on time, right? So these are the key aspects that you should keep in mind while you are delivering the session, and that will come to you as you practice, as you deliver more and more sessions and more meetings. And then after that, so it is not at all over once the meeting is over, right? After the meeting or after the session, you also need to keep check of few things, like you are sending out the key takeaways and the action items from your meeting to all the participants who should know about that meeting. So keep proper track of entire summary, keep a list of action items, mention the owner or someone who needs to do that action items along with the timelines, right? Do necessary follow-ups, or do keep tracking those action items, and then also ask for the feedback on that session or the meeting. Get the important feedback from them. Understand that okay, where it can be improved, where it can be can be done in a better way, and then start from the fresh. So again, you need to start before your next session. You need to do, the items that we have covered so far before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. So if you are able to, thoroughly practice this, if you are able to thoroughly make a proper checklist and follow it, I'm pretty sure that, maximum of your meeting, I would say more than 95% of your meetings and sessions will be very productive. Right, you will find them effective. You will also find that the audience who is joining your meetings and the audience who is participating in your sessions are finding it more interactive, more insightful, more we can say it as in more planned manner, right? So they will love to be part of your meetings or sessions. So they will not find it that, okay, I've been into the session, I was not sure what was going on, like someone was discussing something else was going on, and at the end of the meeting we weren't sure what we achieved, right? So it is very important to share these insights and important aspects to your audience as well. Okay, so with this, we come to an end of this session. Hope you would have enjoyed it. Thank you and have a great day. I would like to know if you have any queries or questions, and feel free to post here. So I'm happy to answer your questions. I'm pretty sure that you might be having few. So let me know if you have any questions for me. I'm happy to answer it right away.
No questions at this time. There's only one question regarding certificate.
Mhm.
Now, certificates are given only at workshops. So we don't give certificates at our live webinars.
Correct.
So apart from that, there's no other question.
Okay, sounds good, David. So yeah, so with this, we'll be ending this sessions. Hope you would have find it useful. I hope you would enjoyed it. So just make sure that you are following the pointers that we discussed today. So have a great day. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining.